my tiny whoops grooving like a funky jam. Dip through the doorway, spin by the cab, bounce off the toaster, yeah, I meant to do that. Neighbors knocking, saying, what's that sound? It's my brush motor soul train getting down. Flying through the curtain, dancing on breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic, bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop it all. I got LED strobes and a shag rug trail. I'm looping through the lava lamp, leaving a tail. My whoop's got rhythm, my stick's got soul. I'm the pilot of the party, on a roll. TV remote's a gate, the lamps a dive. I'm flying like it's 7.5. No GPS, no rules, no shame. Just a funky little quad in a soul train frame. Below, we fly that flow. Below, grab that gap. No time to nap. No time to nap. Hit that roll. Funk and control. Funk and control. Bounce that wall. Bounce that all. We fly it all. Funk it all. We fly it all. Tiny whoop love, funky and free. We fly indoors, we fly with glee. Whoop it, loop it, groove it, move it, bounce it, flip it, funk it, rip it, fly that soul, don't lose control. Tiny whoop love gonna make you whole. I thread the needle through the vinyl stacks, bounce off the mirror ball, never looking back. My quad's got soul, it's got style, it's got sass. It dips through the incense like a blast from the past. I'm flying figure eights through the lava lamp glow, dodging house plants like a funky pro. My whoop's got rhythm, my stick's got heat. I'm the pilot of the party with the grooviest beat. I loop through the hallway, I dive by the broom. I'm the disco ghost in your living room. I hit that split that's over grandma's chair. She just claps and says, boy, you got flair. I'm flying freestyle with a velvet touch. My quad so smooth it don't need a clutch. From the shag rug to the ceiling fan, I'm the funky little fly with a master plan. The curtains dancing on the breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop at all. Can't stop at all. Can't stop at all.
What's up, friends? Hey, that's funny. I was laughing. I'm sick. Can you hear it? I'm starting to get sick. Florence has been... Florence didn't go to school like Wednesday, Thursday, because she was sick, and then, of course, she gave it to me. So, I am not feeling great, but we're going to soldier through, God damn it. What's up, people? My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Today, we're finally going to get this guy set the rest of the way up. This is a build that I did here on the channel, and then kind of ran out of time. Although, a lot of times I'll set these things up on my own after the live streams where I get the builds done. In this case, I didn't, and it occurs to me that there's a whole bunch of like simple-ish setup tips that an initial install, a new build, is the perfect time to kind of turn on. Crash recovery, for example, which we live streamed about a couple of days ago. And so I didn't do the setup for this. We're going to do the setup for this. And I'm going to hit you with at least 7 of those tips. 7 I picked because S. And I wanted as many S's as I possibly could in a row because That's what I do. So you might get 8 setup tips. You might get 9. You might only get 6. You'll get more than 6. So yeah, we're gonna set this thing up from scratch. I'm gonna show you how I go through Betaflight. I'm gonna tell you a bunch of stuff that you probably didn't already know that will help you fly better, or at least make you have more fun. So that's the deal for today. We're gonna dive into Betaflight with this, get it set up top to bottom. I'm gonna explain like the method to my madness of setting these things up. And then we might even go into the CLI and do a couple of secret things like PIDSUM. Speaking of PIDSUM, look at the size of this fucking thing. Shout out to Brandon's Baked Beans. He's been helping me get this a little bit dialed in. This is a regular old glide build with a set of non-existent arms. Bob Rugi Kebab sent me the files for these 7-inch dead cat arms, and then which used to be made in 5mm thick carbon, or maybe 5.5mm thick carbon. And I had Ryan Harrell buy me a set of 6mm thick carbon and cut these out of that. So these are like the only 6mm dead cat 7-inch glide arms that exist. I did have him cut me a few sets. Patrick has one of them, and then I think I had him cut me 4 sets. I'm keeping 1 set for sure as backups in case these ever break, or if I ever build another one. And then there's this extra set that I should probably also keep, because if for some reason I build 2 of these, I will want to have the extra set of arms. But I might sell. No promises, but there's a chance that I'll sell that last set of arms. The 6mm sheet of carbon was really expensive, so they won't be a cheap set of arms, but we'll see. 55 amp all-in-one ESC, flight controller up in the front. This is identical to every other like freestyle glide that I've ever built, other than the arms. Usually I build glides with 35 amp 30x30 ESCs because that's all we really need. A 35 amp Acon ESC will outlast pretty much any 65 amp ESC. The amp, anything north of 35 amps, and unless you're on giant motors like these, it's kind of unnecessary. There's a school of thought where, you know, when you start smacking into stuff, there's like a back spike of EMF that goes through the system, and if you have higher amp rated FETs, they will survive better. Those 35 amp FETs, you know, it's 35 times 4. That's a number that you're not going to get anywhere near, and then if you smash into something, yeah, okay, it's going to exceed the normal number, but yeah, I've had 35 amp Acon ESCs last me thousands of batteries. It's and just utter abuse. So yeah, don't be fooled into thinking, if you can find a 35 amp ESC that's made properly, like the Acons, the fact that they're made properly, that's what's going to keep them lasting for a long time. A lot of times when ESCs die, it's like a chip that pops off, or a voltage regulator that explodes. So getting an ESC from a manufacturer that makes good stuff, like Acon, is way more important than getting one that's 1,000 amps per channel. I put a couple batteries up in the air with this yesterday. It's doing weird 7-inch things. Brandon helped me out quite a bit. I even tried it on Mark Spatz's tune. Mark Spatz has a 7-inch tune in Betaflight. And it was actually pretty decent. The motors were absolutely heating up. And so, yeah, with 7-inch builds, it's pretty important that you do black box logging. Brandon's Baked Beans charges $1 a minute, which is extremely inexpensive for the level of expertise that he brings to the table. And so, yeah, if you've got a big build, just get a black box log, get it over to Brandon, and he's going to make it quite a bit better. I was hoping to fly this today, but I got woken up pretty early this morning and then somehow managed. I'm not able to fall back asleep. I was able to fall back to sleep today, so I slept through the time period that I was going to get this back up in the air to try the changes that Brandon made. But I'll have to do that tomorrow. So on tomorrow night's stream, I'll be able to talk to you more about this. It's doing a couple weird things. There's really nothing to see right now. I do have one flight file from like the second battery or something that I uploaded to YouTube, but there's really nothing to see. It's doing weird stuff, like in a sustained yaw. Like if I just push a little bit of yaw in, the motors will kind of wind up on their own. When I do a flat spin with roll and yaw, the motors kind of wind up on their own and it gains a bunch of altitude. So hopefully Brandon had me make a bunch of changes. Hopefully those changes will have taken care of that. We'll see. But, you know, 7-inch from what I understand and what I've seen everyone talking about forever, and now that I'm talking to people more about 7-inch stuff, yeah, 7-inch stuff. I was talking about this to Patrick, and he's like, yeah, sounds like 7-inch stuff. So, yeah, I'm in it now. Hopefully, the changes that Brandon had me make will have a we'll clean it up a little bit. I've been talking back and forth with B-Bird. B-Bird, yeah, on Discord. And I have gone up and down, left and right, trying to get the perfect Bri-Brain mount. He redesigned we started messing around with this when we realized that the what is that little booger there? Oh, I see what it is. When we realized a while ago that the Bri-Brain mount was pretty much perfect, but the front foot on the Bri-Brain mount would push up against the camera plug on the Newbie Drone AIOs and the Betaflight AIOs. And so we started trying to figure out a way, mainly B-Bird, started trying to figure out a way to redesign the front foot so that wouldn't happen. And he designed a really cool looking front foot initially that was unbelievably a lot less, it was heavier and less durable than the super simple Bri-Brain front foot design. He's been super generous with his time. We've gone back and forth. And then, unbelievably, but predictably, I guess, in the end, we realized the best fix is just to make the front foot thicker and to cut a little notch in the back of it. In the process, we also realized that like there weren't any low camera angle Bri-Brains, so he went ahead and made a 15 and a 25 degree Bri-Brain for all of the different camera mounts. So I will now have on my Etsy store 15. I put a poll up on my Discord saying like, yo, what up tilt do you guys want the most? 5 degrees, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. And 20 got the most votes. 15 and 25 got the second most votes. And so what I'm going to be doing is 15 degree and 25 degree Bri-Brain mounts. To give you some perspective, the Betaflight banana hammock G-string mount, when you put that into the least possible up tilt, that's 25 degrees. So I've decided that 15 and 25 degrees are the way to go, but mainly because you can tell the difference between the two of them. If I offered these mounts in 10, 15, 20, 25, that's a nightmare for me to be able to sit here and be like, which one is this? Because inevitably I'm going to get them all confused in a bag. B, you're not going to be able to tell a difference. I think having a 15 and then having a 25 makes a lot more sense. If you want to go slow, it's the 15. If you want to go faster, it's the 25. Unless you're doing like hardcore racing, that's really the move. Like if you're flying inside of your house, you want 15. 20 is just a little bit too much. If you want to go fast around the house, 20 is not going to be quite enough. And so, yeah, 15 and 25 are my favorite. Again, you can kind of tell the difference between them, which is super useful. So that when you go from one to the other, you can actually kind of tell, and it's not just a placebo difference. So yeah, I've got arguably the best, because the Bri-Brain camera mount is the best that I've found, but the fact that, you know, it's really hard to find it in lower than 30-degree up tilts makes it, like, not the best, because you can't get it in that lower up tilt. So, in my opinion, for indoor freestyle, on my Etsy store, I will have the best of the mounts. And I'm going to do a... I'm tempted to do a little pack where right now there's just individuals, but I'm definitely going to do like a little 15 and 20 degree option so that you can get them both and then test out both of the up tilts. But yeah, that's what's coming to Etsy. Right now you can go on there and you can buy a standard Tiny Whoop canopy, and this is what you'll get. You'll get these guys. But yeah, I'll beef up those listings a little bit so you can get one of each. Here's what I mean when I say, so yeah, we have these 4 standard frame cameras, CO3, the taller bastard, and Nubidra and BI. So this should cover like all of the different camera AIOs. And even with a 10-degree difference, it's still pretty subtle. Like, you can tell the difference in up tilt, but it's not like that. You can really tell when you look at them flat on the desk like that. I literally have to sit them flat on the desk like this to be able to tell the difference between them. But yeah, that's 25 on the left, 15 on the right. So yeah, there you go. If someday I only sell one up tilt, it will be 20. But I think 15 and 25 is the way to go. 15 is... I've flown these things with 10-degree up tilt. It's not quite enough. 15-degree up tilt is basically what you get with a Mobula 6 ball sack canopy when you push the camera as low as it'll go. You for whatever reason, sometimes it's because the ceramic tower antenna is in the way. You really can't get less than 15 degrees on this and have it stay. When you start crashing, it tends to push a little bit into up tilt. Also, you don't necessarily want less than 15 degrees because you just put more duct in view. Like, at 15 degrees, the ducts are going to be, like, probably right around here. 10 degrees, 5 degrees, 0 degrees. It's kind of silly, right? Like, just filling the bottom of the frame up with more and more and more ducts doesn't make a ton of sense. So at 15 degrees, you've got like a chunk of duct down here, but not so much that it's starting to look ridiculous. So those are all the reasons, friends. I've got all these different colors of filament, the full rainbow. Whenever you buy something off my Etsy store, not only do you support me, and it's getting tougher and tougher to do this full time as the economy collapses from fascists. Not only do you support me, but you support yourself. You get a free Propodial with every order. Propodials are one of the best ways of getting Tiny Whoop props off of motors safely without ruining the motors. And they're small and they're flat, and you put them in your flight bag and it's good to go. You're not going to scratch any of your gear up. You know, I love that Tiny Whoop includes this little 3D printed cover for their clone popper, because this is like sharp and aggressive and metal. But I don't bring this with me. When I go out and fly somewhere, I just have a Propodial in my bag, and it works like 98% as good as that. So yeah, order something from my Etsy store. Get yourself something nice. Support me and get a free Propodial. That's a pretty good deal, isn't it? Who remembers, I have this 9/64ths? Is it 9/64ths? Jesus. It has rusted so bad that I can't read it anymore. What the hell? How is that possible? I have this drill bit sitting on my desk, and I know I used to use it for something. There's some task that this 9/64th... There it is. Milwaukee... I gotta catch the light just right. I can see the 64ths. Yeah, 9/64ths. What do I use this 9/64ths drill bit for? I haven't used it in a while. Who remembers? You get a prize if you remember what I use a 9/64ths drill bit for. It's driving me crazy. If one of you don't remember, I'm screwed. I'm going to lose my mind. In the chat, Frank Nicholas was first, Bad at Jones was next, Matthew Wegner, Spaceman Spiff, Eco, Levster, We Bleed FPV, Sporny, Tamava, I'm not going to try to pronounce the rest of that, but Roberto, Uriel, Arizona, Whoop Fox, Ramalala, Eco again, Hendrix Freakazoid, Uriel again, Latrank, Skull 901, Chuck P, Howdy Newbie, YouTube just did the thing, Stephen Corley, I'm going to miss a bunch of you because YouTube did the thing, blame YouTube, Stephen Corley, Cole, Howdy Newbie, You Can FPV, 10-second runtime, Teleport, Whoop Fox, Howdy Newbie again, Spaceman Spiff again, The Bruce, Neo Flows, what's up, everybody? If you want to talk directly to him in the chat, type at CiottiFPV. I'm having an allergy attack to something. I'm dying today. Just dying. Bad at Drone said, evening all at CiottiFPV. How did the Ant Light mount fit? You know, I didn't have a chance to try it yet. It's still sitting here. Where is it? It's sitting over here, actually. That build is still pulled apart. Maybe we'll work on this. Nah, I'll fix this. So this is the 2S 802 analog build that I had direct soldered a Runcam Nano 7 to, but unfortunately, after just a few batteries, that camera exploded. It exploded on a really hard crash, so and you can see where one of the components came off the damn thing. That happens in tiny whooping every once in a while. It's kind of rare, but it does happen. You got to pay to play. We crash the shit out of these things. It's incredible that they survive any of it, any of the abuse we put them through. If you want to talk to me in the chat, type at CiottiFPV. YouTube has made things worse, so you got to type you got to put an at before somebody's name if you want to tag them. Cole FPV says, looks like it needs tri-blades, for cornering. I was tuning it on tri-blades, and then I realized, hey, bi-blades are going to be the least well-balanced, so I want to tune it on bi-blades. So I moved it over. These are HQ 7 by... What are they, 7 by 4? Or are they 7 by 4.5? 7 by 4.5 bi-blades. This is also for going fast, and so I'm putting propellers on it that are the highest pitch that I can find. I don't want to do like APC Maniac propellers, but like, Gemfan and HQ props that are as pitchy as possible are what I'm putting on this guy. The fucking noise it makes on 7-inch bi-blades is something else. My God. Whoa. Whoa. And you go full throttle, it goes, wah! Latrank says, bi-blades on 7-inch are so hard to tune and balance. IMO. I'd love to fly them, but I could never find a good set. Yeah, I'm going to get to see that. I put it up on Gemfan 7042 bi-blades. And it wasn't bad. The motors were heating up a little bit, but it was not that bad. Cole Power says print certain up tilt in specific color or mark them the moment they come off the plate. Yeah, but then like, you know, when I don't want to have I don't want to like triple the amount of mounts that, you know, because if I say like, look, 15 and 25, that's it, then it avoids the whole like, hey, I've got 15, 20, and 25. Well, I want 10. Well, all right, I'll custom print it for. Well, I want 30. Well, all right, I'll, you know, like just saying like 15 and 25 is the way to go for flying freestyle in the house. And if you're here, you're flying freestyle in the house. You know, that keeps it cut down. And I like to offer all the different colors. So, yeah. Stephen Corley misspelled CiottiFPV, but I just happened to see it. No, he did it twice. It's CIOTTI. You're putting an extra I in there, but I just happened to see it here. He was trying to tag me, but when you misspell somebody's name, it doesn't light up in orange. Steven bought 2 X12 AIOs. The Crazy Bee put together. The first one, only soldering was the battery connector. I couldn't figure out where the antenna wire for the controller would go, but mine have ceramic antenna. Yep. I think built onto the board after getting motor spinning correct. Direction, my controller kept telling me the link was critical and dropped out. What would cause it to catch on fire? All right, so if you've got, it sounds like you bought brand new X12s. If you've got it bound properly, it should not be telling you that the link is critical. I'm confused as to at what point it caught on fire, though. Yeah. If the ELRS link is dropping out like that, return them. If you buy something brand new and it's not working right out of the box, as long as like you don't have anything set wrong, like check your ELRS settings, like set ELRS to 250 hertz. Make sure it's not on 500 hertz. Sometimes tiny whoops don't like 500 hertz. 250 is plenty. But I mean, that's kind of it. Set ELRS to 250 hertz refresh rate, bind it, and that's it. It should go really, really far. And if it doesn't, return it. And don't get into, you know, we have this weird like Stockholm syndrome of like everything breaks because I crash into stuff. But like if you buy something brand new and it's not working perfectly, don't troubleshoot it. Get it back and be like, you know, I paid for something that works. This doesn't work perfectly. Send me something that works perfectly, or send me my damn money back. So there you go. You Can FPV says, damn, I love 20 for everything. LOL. Well, you know, if you're flying in the house, try 15. If you're going to fly outside, try 25. You might want more if you're flying outside. Stephen Corley then spelled my name wrong again. He spelled it with the extra I, but then he put GPV. Maybe I was wrong about the antenna cable. Maybe it's not really 2S board. Nope, the X12 will take 2S for sure. But I don't know what the antenna cable and 2S have to do with each other. But yeah, it'll definitely take 2S. There is no antenna cable. It's the ceramic tower antenna. Hopefully that answers the wrong about the antenna cable part of that question. Howdy Newbie says, thanks for making all the tilts in all the camera options. I love / hate my CO3 sometimes, lol. You know, that's kind of the other thing, right? Like, I want to give you guys these camera mounts in like 10 different color options. If there's 10 different color options and 3 different up tilts, that's 30 different camera mounts, versus if I just do 2, it's 20, right? If I end up doing 4 or 5, it's 40 or 50. It gets exponentially and more insane. So 15 and 25, that's what you want, in my opinion. 10-second runtime says, have you tried the lightweight BriBrains with the purple 98 TPU I sent you? I have not had a chance to. I do have it sitting over here. 10-second runtime very kindly sent me a spool of flexible 98A TPU. It looks like it's made by Pryline in this kind of like pink color. And I haven't quite had a chance to get it into the machine yet. It's been a crazy week, as it always is. But yeah, this will be interesting. The SaneSmart TPU is 95A. This is 98A, which is a little bit harder and potentially a little bit like tougher, a little bit more resistant to kind of bending. So yeah, that'll be interesting to try that out. Thank you again, dude. That was very cool of you to send that over. You Can FPV says, is the store updated with these mounts? I need to know. I need a new prop dial. I lost mine. It is not, but the store does have Newbie Drone BI mounts on it. The store does have standard mounts on it. The store does have, I think it has CO3 mounts. You can just order one of the Tiny Whoop mounts. They're all $5, I think. And then just in the notes, just confirm what camera you want it for. If you don't see a CO3 mount on the Etsy store, just order the standard mount and in the notes say, yo, send me the CO3 mount, please. You'll still be able to put the color in. You'll still be able to put the up tilt in. All of the existing mounts should have 15 and 25 degree up tilt options. I think I've fixed them. So you can just do that. Just use the notes. It's all good. Whoop Fox says, I put in an Etsy order. Is it too late to sub out the screws for a Kill All Carbon sticker? It should not be. Now you're good. I still see it in here. Send me a message over on Etsy with that swap, and we should be totally fine. Cola FPV says 9/64 is perfect for cleaning the gunk out of your ears. There it is. That's the one. Matthew Wegner, thank you, dude. 9/64 is for enlarging 65 millimeter middle motor hole to avoid rubbing on the light AF frame. That's it. That's what it is. So I'm not really running the light AF frames anymore, but this is also helpful for the Cockroach V3 frames sometimes. Not all the times, but sometimes. And so, yes, this will... I was going to put this back in the drill bit set, but no, this will live on my desk. That's right. Good call. Thank you, dude. Yeah, the light AF frame is the worst when it comes to that. It's only when you combine the light AF frames or the Cockroach V3 frame with Happy Model motors. Happy Model motors have the C-clip sitting really far down, and it's a little bit of a bigger C-clip than other motors. And it can rub on the Newbie Drone frame just a little tiny bit. And so, yeah, that's for clearing that out, enlarging the holes a little bit. Good call, dude. Hell yeah. Newborn also got it. Drill bit for frame motor mount. Open up the C-clip clearance. I haven't broken one of these Newbie Drone, the Cockroach V3 and the Light AF frames. They're really tough, and I haven't broken one in a while, so I haven't had to put a new frame on and had the motor rub to remember that that's what it's for. Good problem to have. Stephen Corley says, thank you, autocorrect gets me on my phone. Yes, bound good, caught on fire before flying. That's yeah, shouldn't be catching on fire. I mean, I guess if you have the tune like super, well, here's what I can think of. If you're doing a 2S build and then you've got like 19 or 20,000 kV motors and you're not using motor limiting to bring them down to like 75 or 80%, that could be a reason. The right KV for like a 2S build on one of these 1.6 inch prop dealios is like 14 or 15,000 kV. Those motors are kind of hard to find, so you can use 18 or 19 or 20,000 kV motors, but you have to motor limit them down. Not throttle cut, motor limit in the PIDs tab. You got to reduce the amount of power that the PID loop has. 19 or 20,000 is too much. I have run those boards up at 100% motor limiting, and they've been fine, so they still shouldn't catch on fire. But if you've got like a 20,000 kV or a 22,000 kV motor, that's like really, you're pushing it too far. You got to have that motor limiting in there. That's the only thing I can think of. They shouldn't be catching on fire. It's rendered in it says when I set ELRS to 50 hertz for definitely not long range, I get bad telemetry, but at 250 I have 0 issues. That's weird. I mean, you don't really need the telemetry. That's strange though. I don't really know why. I don't dive into the long range stuff, so I've never really set my stuff at 50 hertz. I'm going to assume that when you set it to 50 hertz, it reduces the amount of power that it puts into the telemetry. Although also, I mean, at 50 versus 250, it's going to send those telemetry packets 1/5 as often. So if you like lose one, and all of the receivers, so the telemetry packets are actually sent from the quad, from the receiver in the quad back to the transmitter, and the receiver in the quad is very low power. So sending 1/5 as many of those is going to mean that if you lose, you know, like if you're losing them, it's going to be much more obvious. But yeah, I don't necessarily know the exact. Well, it kind of has to be one of the two. It has to be either reducing the power that it is sending those telemetry packets, or you're just losing so many of those that being, you know, that it's giving you those warnings. You Can FPV says, ever considered designing an adjustable mount? Not really. In order to have an adjustable mount that's going to put up with any kind of abuse, is going to be really, really difficult. And so, yeah, I don't know how you would necessarily do that. If you want an adjustable mount, this is the upside down ball sack canopy is definitely the way to go. It's super strong. It's molded. You can fit the Runcam Nano 3. It's just, yeah, it's the jam. Teleport FPV with a $10 super chat. He says, thanks for all the knowledge you share and the laughs too. Best to you. Thank you, brother. Much appreciated. Levster says, hey, I got a camera control board and my CO3 camera has a yellow picture. I wonder if I can use the control board to change the settings, but where are the camera control pads? There aren't any. Most Tiny Whoop cameras do not have the ability to adjust them at all. Yellow picture is weird. Sometimes you'll get a pink picture if the infrared filter breaks off. But yellow picture is super weird. Yeah, there's nothing you can do. It's render and it says also really bad RSSI dBm. LOL. That's weird, dude. I'm sure there's a reason for it. If there's somebody from the long range community in here, they'll probably know like that. Frank Nicholas says ELRS does setting the rate affect telemetry. I would have thought only TX to RX, not back from telemetry. Not that I know, but just what I assumed. Yeah, I don't know why. Changing it to 50 would reduce the power output, but that's, you know, getting bad telemetry means that between the quad and the transmitter, something's going on. Yes, it's sending 1/5 as many packets, so that's definitely going to affect it. The only other option is that it's sending them at a lower power. That wouldn't make sense, but that's just the only other option, right? There's two options. Either it's sending less packets, which we know it is, and so if one gets lost, it's a bigger dent in the signal, or it's sending them at a lower power. So it's going to be either one of those things. But yeah, that's interesting. Super interesting. You should change your yeah, Brendan's a step ahead of me. Change your telemetry ratio. Yeah, you want the default telemetry ratio. So your telemetry ratio is how often. Okay, your packet rate is how often packets of data are sent between your transmitter and the receiver, how often they're sent. 250 hertz is 250 per second. 50 hertz is 50 per second. And so the receiver sends a packet out to the transmitter sends a packet out to the receiver with the actual stick commands that you're doing. The receiver sends a packet back to the transmitter with the telemetry. Then there's the telemetry ratio. What I just described would be a 1/1 telemetry ratio. Typically, transmitters come set much lower than that. They'll come like with a telemetry ratio of like, I think I've seen 1/64th as the default. Whatever. It'll be a fraction. And so like 1/64th, for example, that means it sends one telemetry packet back for every 64. Really? You're going to screw me over this early, Canon? It sends one telemetry back every 64 packets going from the transmitter to the camera. And so, yeah, you can drop your telemetry ratio down to like whatever it's at now, drop it down less. So if it's at 1/64th now, drop it to 1/16th or something like that, and it'll send way more. So like if you're, if you go from 250 hertz to 50 hertz, you're sending 1/5 as many telemetry packets back. So then if you take your telemetry ratio from 1/64ths and you drop even down to 1/32, you're going to send twice as many. If you drop it down to 1/16ths, you're going to send 4 times as many. So if you drop it down to 1/16ths, you're going to send 4 times as many, which is going to really offset the fact that you're sending 1/5 as many packets from the packet rate, right? 250 versus 50. So there you go. That easy button is going to be to move your that ratio to 1/16th, even maybe 1/8. If you want to send more telemetry packets back, you can move it to 1/8, and that'll offset that 250 to 50 change. There you go. In my opinion, the best way, the easiest way to get that telemetry ratio correct is just to leave it on 1/64ths, which I think is as high as it goes, and I think is where it's by default. And then if you're getting telemetry lost, you drop it down from 1/64ths to 1/32. You fly it again, and you just keep dropping that telemetry ratio down and down and down until you stop getting those telemetry lost messages. Or you just ignore them, because like there is telemetry that's getting through. You typically don't need it to come through as often as the normal packet rate. But if you're getting telemetry lost warnings, that means like, yeah, you're getting to the point where A, it's annoying for your transmitter to be screaming at you, but B, the telemetry can be really important if you're flying in areas that are unrecoverable or flying in difficult RF areas. Howdy Newbie says, I think my first drone 75mm Pro is finally shitting the bed. I've smashed it into walls enough the OSD information in the goggles disappears and the camera brightness changes. Dying AIO or camera? Probably the AIO, because the Super Bia, thank you for subscribing. If you guys aren't subscribed, do it. Yeah, probably the AIO, because that's where the OSD chip lives. But the Betaflight 75 Pro used to, the old version of it had a separate VTx. And if that VTx is dying, it can cause weird shit to happen. So it could be that external VTx. When the cameras die, they can cause weird stuff to happen. So like it could also kind of be the camera. It's hard to tell. Once it fully dies, then you'll know. But the camera flaking out can cause the OSD to do weird stuff. The VTX flaking out can cause the OSD to do weird stuff. It's hard to totally nail it down, but that should be the OSD chip. That should be a problem with the OSD chip. That chip is the biggest rectangular chip on the board. It's the only big chip that's also like a giant rectangle. And so a lot of times when the OSD chip is failing, if you can put the goggles on and take something like non-conductive and poke or just use your finger and push on that rectangular chip, if when you push on that chip, the problem goes away and comes back, if pushing on that chip has an effect, then that is the problem. Or just keep flying it until it fails all the way, and then if you still have video but you have no OSD, the OSD chip is what has failed. You know, like once it goes all the way, then it's easier to troubleshoot. Its Render says, thanks Brandon Biggs, Brandon and CiottiFPV. You are certainly welcome. All right, I'm caught up on chat. Let's go. I said the thing. I said the thing that all the cool kids say that makes me cringe. Oh, man. It hurts. It hurts to accidentally say it. Brandon. The 6-7 thing is obviously way worse, but that's so far outside of the realm of... Even the two kids in this house don't say the 6-7 thing. That thing was kind of like immediately played out and stupid. The brain rot shit is real, man. These poor fucking kids. My God. They are just absolutely doomed. Okay, so fresh build. AIO right out of the box. Hooking up the motors. No idea what direction they're spinning. All kinds of stuff going on here. Lots and lots and lots to set up. So, full, fresh build. First things first. Tip. Sunday secret number 1. Accelerate your fucking calibrometer. Accelerate that shit, friends. First things first, hook it up to Betaflight. Marvel at the fact that Betaflight refuses to connect. Oh, come on, you shitbird bastard. Betaflight's been running from last night. First tip, launch Betaflight early, because it takes forever to launch sometimes. No, the actual first tip is to calibrate your accelerometer. Hook the quad up, connect to it. Well, actually, tip 0.1 is to hold the quad in your hand and go nose down, nose up, left, right, yaw left, and yaw right. And if on the screen it doesn't match what you're doing, fix it in the configuration. But really, the first tip is to calibrate the accelerometer. Usually these come with a calibration on them. So like if I put this thing flat on the desk here, that's pretty good. That's pretty damn good. But the pitch is off by 4.4 degrees. The roll is off by 1.4. There's just no reason not to calibrate it real quick. If you're like, well, how the hell do I do that? Because on a tiny whoop with an AIO, I've got this cable hanging out the bottom. Just hang it off the front of your desk, bro. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to do it. You can also, like, if you have two things that are equal height, like if you've got a box, take the top and the bottom off the box and put them right next to each other like this. And then you can put it in between like that. If you really want to get it perfect, you can do that. You know, any setup that lets the cord hang on. But realistically, just hang it off the side of your table, just like that. Put your fingers on the side of it, because what you're doing is you're pushing down on the battery bay. And so just hang it off the side of your desk, put 2 fingies on it like this, push it down so that it's held solidly in place, and accelerate your effing calibrometer. All right, so I got it there on the side of the desk. Click it, give it a second or two, and there you go. Is this running the Walksnail board? This is indeed running the Walksnail board. Tip, secret 1.5. Make sure you know if it's an HD build. Well, if it's a Walksnail build, it's probably going to run the VTx. If it's an 04 light build, it's not going to run the VTx off of USB power. So like if it's a Walksnail build, also the HD0 builds, make sure you've got some sort of cooling. They are going to get hot when you're going through all the different Betaflight stuff. This is the Gangly fan. You can win this in the Super Chat giveaways on my first Monday of every month live streams. This is an awesome way to keep your shit cool so that it doesn't melt into the effing carpet. And so I'm going to hook up a goggle battery real quick here and keep this thing from imploding. All right, so our accelerometer is now calibrated. That is going to help with crash recovery, which we did a whole live stream about the other day. It is magical. You're going to love my nuts. All right, there we go. That is now safely on the fan. So, next secret. So, first and foremost, when you go through Betaflight, go through it top down. Just bang, 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 bang. And so, setup tab is the first one that opens. We've calibrated the accelerometer. We're pretty much good to go in here. Here's another secret little tip. Ready? Watch this. When I first plug this thing in, it needs to, it does like a little bit of a gyro calibration, basically. So if I plug it in and I keep it moving around, you're going to notice that this here... What? What happened, little friend? What happened to you? I think Betaflight is being a dick right now. Hold on. When you first plug this thing in, that model on the screen is going to look very juddery. See how slow it is? That's because I haven't given the gyro a second to calibrate. Ready? And you can see over here, it says calibrating MSP. It can't calibrate because I keep moving it. Ready? I'm going to hold it still for a second. And now that calibrating MSP went away, and now it's nice and fast. So yeah, that's what's going on there. You got to give it a split second, and it's got to be stable to calibrate. That's why if you ever try to launch one of these from a boat that's moving around, it might not be able to calibrate itself. When you plug these things in, when you power these AIOs or flight controllers up, they have to be held still for a second to calibrate the gyro. You're going to calibrate the accelerometer manually, but the gyro needs to calibrate every single time you power these up, and the way to do that is just to hold it still for a couple of seconds. I was able to see that in the arming flags. On the status here, under System Info, it tells you what the arming disable flags currently are. Right now, there's no receiver. There's no transmitter hooked up to the receiver, so it's in receiver failsafe. So it will not arm because there is a receiver failsafe. There's no connection there. It also will not arm because MSP, which means that it's plugged into Betaflight. We don't want these things arming while there's a USB cable hanging out of them. So MSP is referring to the fact that it knows it's connected to Betaflight, so it won't fully arm. You can still go into the motors tab and spin the motors up, but it won't arm with the PID loop active, which is where all hell can break loose. So yeah, those are in the arming flags. I fear that I just had the face camera up the entire time. Here's where that is. RX Failsafe and then MSP. And when you highlight over them, it gives you a nice little tooltip, which is super helpful. Okay. Ports tab is up next. It looks like this AIO has come with serial RX already turned on UART 2, which is a good thing because this AIO has the receiver built in. They do have a little system. Anybody that watched the build stream with this, they've got a little solder bridge between the TX2 pads and the pads where you can turn off or on the internal receiver. So luckily, in this case, like, I'm good to go. This is already set up properly for the internal receiver, so that's good to go. What AIO are you using? This was sent to me. It is the Super X HD ELRS from Happy Model. A little bit of an older AIO, but it's totally fine. Super X HD with ELRS built in. So by HD, what they're saying is, hey, we're not building a VTX on board. We're also not building an OSD on board. But then ELRS, as in it has the ELRS receiver built in. And then because this is set up for HD, we need the VTX to be MSP plus DisplayPort. This is a little weird. They ship it with TBS Smart Audio as if you're going to run an external... this is the option that you would use if you're going to run an external analog VTX. This is the option that you're going to use if you're going to run an HD VTX. Let me confirm that there's no OSD chip on here. There is not one on the bottom. And it's hard to see the top, but it doesn't look like there's one on top of the AIO either. So, yeah. Weird that they would send this setup for an external VTX, but whatever, that's fine. Secret number 2. If this is not an option, if MSP plus DisplayPort is not an option, you are on too old of a version of Betaflight. If MSP is an option, don't update Betaflight. If you're doing an HD build and this option is here, what that means is that you're on firmware 4.4 or 4.5. It's fine. There's no significant changes between 4.4 and 4.5. Just leave it. Don't reinstall Betaflight. It's going to potentially... Don't update Betaflight. It's going to potentially cause more problems, and you're going to lose things in there. Don't update it. If you've got this option, if you're doing an HD build, you're good to go. Just leave it on the version. If you're on firmware 4.3, you're going to be updating. If you're on 4.2, 4.3, you're going to be updating. 4.3 kind of works with HD VTXs, but it can be a little bit weird sometimes, and I think it depends on the version of 4.3 that you're on. Like 4.3.0 won't work right. 4.3.3 might. If you're on 4.3, you are going to be updating. But if you're on 4.4 or 4.5, you don't need to update. Just leave it alone. I'm going to leave this on 4.4. It's going to be totally fine. All is well. I did make a change here, so I'm going to make sure that I click Save and Reboot. So we did the Setup tab. We did the Ports tab. If your AIO doesn't come with this setup, you're going to need to look up the wiring diagram, or look up the flight controller or the AIO and figure out what UART they've got the receiver set on. But it should come set up good to go if it has an internal receiver. If you're running an external receiver, you need to pay attention when you're soldering that receiver on which UART number it's on. If you solder it up to the RX1 and TX1 pads, then serial RX needs to be on UART 1. That's how that works. Cool. Configuration tab. So, if your gyro update frequency is at 3.2, what that means is that you have a BMI 270 gyro. Your PID loop frequency, I don't know why they have it turned down. Is the processor not fast enough? No, see the CPU load is all the way down at 22%. So we should be able to run this at 3.2 PID loop frequency. If you don't know, change it, save and reboot, and then look at the change in the CPU load down the bottom here. So we've made a change. It was at 22%. Now it's at 44, 45, 46% I saw a second ago. This should be fine. 44% should not be too high. So we should be good here. I don't know if that's really secret number 3, but change your craft name. You can certainly leave it the name of the quad. I change it to my name, so that if you're out flying and somebody is tunes into your channel, and they need to like if somebody is on race 8 and they want to know if they can go up in the air, if they turn their goggles on to race 8 and they see my name, they can go then come find me and be like, hey, are you flying 2 batteries in a row or what? Versus just having to scream out like, hey, who's on race 8? And then like 14 people are like, I'm on race 8. Oh, who's on race 8 that's flying right now? It's just kind of silly. D-Shot beacon configuration. This isn't necessarily a secret, but make sure you have both of these turned on. This is your ESC beeper here. So make sure that these are both turned on. This beacon tone, this changes the pitch of the tone. 1 is the lowest pitch, and then they get higher pitch as you go up. I don't really know why you would want to change that other than just want to try something different, but there you go. And then don't permanently enable air mode. This is a definite secret. OSD, you almost always want that turned on. LED strip, a lot of times this is turned on by default. If you're not using addressable LEDs, turn this off. That's what that's for. That's only used for multicolor addressable LEDs. And so yeah, air mode. Easy button is just to run air mode all the time. That is super easy. In most cases, you're fine. But here's a secret for you. Turn that shit off. Save and reboot. Setup secret number 3. Turn that shit off. Turn off permanent air mode. It's in configuration. It's now turned off. Right now, the way this thing is, air mode will not run at all. What you're going to do on your transmitter, and I'm not going to help you with this because I hate doing stuff in EdgeTX and OpenTX. You're going to assign your momentary switch to send an actual signal. Doesn't matter what channel, but you need to map your momentary switch to send a signal to your transmitter. High and low, high and low. Mine is also set to reset the timer here. When I arm and I give it throttle, this timer used to count down. I guess I turned it off. But yeah, use this momentary switch and use it for air mode. So map this switch onto one of your auxes, aux 4, aux 5. I think in my case it's aux 6. And then we're going to use that for air mode. That's weird that my timer doesn't work anymore. So you're going to turn off air mode in configuration. And then in the modes tab, you're going to come down here to air mode. You're going to add range, and you're going to map air mode to aux, in this case, 6. Let me get this thing bound real quick. and then we will confirm that this is on aux 6. So hold on a second here. Let me plug and unplug this thing 3 times and see if that'll put it into bind mode. Once, twice, 3 times. Yep, that's in bind mode. Wait a second. It says connected already. That's weird. I don't. Apparently, this just automatically bound to that. I don't know how that's. I don't know how that just worked. That was very weird. Okay, I must have already bound this, but it was in Wi-Fi mode before. That's what's going on there. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so in here, you can confirm that you've got that working, and it is indeed on aux 6. You can also check that in the modes tab. Come down here. I want to set air mode. I'm going to click add range, and then I'm just going to flip this switch, and it looks for where that is. And so you can see the switch moving, the little yellow dot. When I pull up on the switch, that's when I went. When I want air mode off. So make sure that this is not highlighting that. Make sure it is highlighting where that switch goes here. So when the switch is in its normal position, air mode is on because this little yellow dash is within range of this guy here. But then when I flip the switch, it goes out of range, and this is going to turn air mode off. So by mapping your momentary switch and then doing that, you can now turn air mode off by pulling the momentary switch. Most of the time, you want air mode on, but if you hit something and air mode freaks out and it sticks to something, you can pull your momentary. It'll turn air mode off. You can lower the throttle. It'll unstick itself, and then you can kick that back on. That is a legitimate secret. Air mode on a switch. You can also put it on a momentary switch, but it's pretty rare that you're going to want to turn air mode off like permanent, not permanently, but you know what I'm saying. Putting it on a momentary, like a 3-position, putting it on a non-momentary 3-position switch also guarantees that you accidentally have that switch in the wrong position like once a month, and you fly around and you're like, why does this feel just a little bit weird? Putting it on a momentary switch, it's never going to stick on, and so you're never going to have that moment of like, this thing is flying awkward and I don't know why. Every time I do a dive, it flops around a little bit. What is wrong with it? And then you start like tuning it and you start changing shit. And then, no, it's because that 3-position switch got bumped when it was in your bag, and it's set to air mode off. Brandon's Baked Beans with the setup that I used to run, which is turning air mode off when angle mode is on. That's easy to do for me, and that's always how I've had it set up. My 3-position switch here right above the throttle, this is angle mode all the way up, and then acro in the middle with OSD, acro all the way down with no OSD. So for the longest time, I had air mode set up to turn off when I push this switch up into angle mode. The problem with that is when you flip up into angle mode, it tries to level itself out. So like if you're, and they're one of the reasons that Brandon just mentioned to turn air mode off is it makes landing or perching a little bit easier. It won't do that air mode bounce. The problem is, if you're on like a good run and everything's looking all buttery and smooth, and then you flip up into angle mode, it like very obviously goes into angle mode, and it just kind of looks silly. This setup allows you to get ready for the perch by just pulling this switch up, and then you perch on something, and then you let go of it, and away you go. So yeah, either or. Try it both ways. Try it both ways. In that case, it is very obvious that when you flip up into angle mode, if you're in angle mode, you know it. You push forward and then it pulls itself back. So that's a great way of doing it. What Brandon mentioned. We will come back to the modes tab. But yeah, in order to have that option in the modes tab, you have to turn air mode off here. If air mode is permanently enabled here in the modes tab, you will not have that option. I'm not going to do that, but yeah, you have to turn air mode off here because this is the permanently enable air mode option. There you go. Secret number 3, maybe? Secret number 4, spend a second in the power and battery tab. There's all kinds of cool stuff in here. Capacity is one of them. You can have your OSD element in the bottom, well, for me it's in the bottom left corner of the screen. You can put it wherever you want. But your MAH counter, it can flash for you when you get above a certain capacity, and this is where you set that. So this rig, I'm going to run 2S 300 mAh batteries on it all the time. So if I set this capacity here to 300 mAh, my OSD will start to flash when I go over 300 mAh. Also, your minimum and your warning cell voltages, don't just leave them alone. Set those for you. Set those where you want your warning. So this is your initial warning that it gives you in the OSD. And then this is your land now, the minimum cell voltage warning. This is where it starts to flash land now, land now, land now. You can change those. If you don't want to discharge your batteries down as low, you're going to bump these numbers up, and it's going to give you those warnings earlier. If you don't want those warnings earlier, you're going to lower these down a little bit. So just set these to numbers that you like them. I like this 3.3, 3.45. This is... Also, keep in mind, these are not necessarily what your battery is going to be after you land, right? When you're flying, especially on a tiny whoop, the battery sags a bunch, and when you unplug the battery, it bounces back up. So these numbers here, 3.3 and 3.45, these are pretty good. When, for me personally, these are a little high for most people. I like to be able to land, unplug the battery, and have it bounce back up to storage voltage so that I don't have to storage voltage them and so that they last as long as possible. This is a build that's going to be on 2S, though. I think these are the values that I run on the 1S builds. The 1S batteries sag like absolute hell, so I might actually need to dial these in a little bit. The easiest way to dial this in is just to leave it alone, fly a couple batteries, land when it gives you your warning. Land whenever you want. If you like to wait until it says land now, that's fine. That's your minimum cell voltage. If you like to land when it starts to flash warning, that's your warning cell voltage. Set them exactly the way that you want them to, but go out, fly it, land when you normally land, unplug the battery, wait a couple minutes, plug the battery into a cell checker and see what voltage that battery is at and decide, is that the voltage that I want my batteries to sit at? Am I willing to storage charge them at this point? You don't want your battery to sit less than 3.5 volts. If you discharge your batteries down to the point where they're at if you fly every day and you run all your batteries down, and after a couple minutes, the batteries are at 3.5 volts per cell, and they sit at 3.5 volts per cell for 24 hours until you charge them and fly them again. That's not great, but it's not the end of the world. It's a much better scenario if they sit at storage voltage. If they sit for those 23 and a half hours at 3.7, 3.8 volts, those batteries are going to last a lot longer. The amount of flight time that you get towards the end of the battery is pretty short. Like, the amount of flight time between 3.8 and 3.5 volts per cell is pretty short. And it also is flying the worst, right? When the battery is at its lowest voltage, it's flying the worst. And so, for me, I would rather buy a couple extra batteries and get a little bit less runtime and not run them down that low. That's just me. You do you. It's all good. But everybody just kind of skips over the power and battery tab here It's actually really nice. And this is where those minimum and warning cell voltages are driven from. You would think they would put these in the OSD tab because it's what flashes in the OSD, but they do not. So dial in your minimum and your warning cell voltage for you, but also for each individual quad. This is a 2S rig. It's not going to sag as bad as a 1S rig. And so for this exact build, I might actually be moving these warning and minimum cell voltages down a little bit, but I'll decide that after I fly a couple batteries, fly them down to my normal amount, put them on a cell checker, see how much they bounce back up, and we'll figure it out like that. The other thing that you sometimes have to screw around with in here is the amperage scale. This should be set correctly, but sometimes it's not. If you put a 300 mAh battery on your rig, and in your OSD, by the time you're done flying, it says that 1,000 mAh has been taken out of the battery, your scale here is set too low. What I do is I just like double it. Like, so 470, double that scale number, fly another battery. See where see how many milliamps the OSD thinks you took out of the battery, and then if it's too low now, you went too high on the scale, cut it in half. Don't cut it in half. Cut the amount you changed it in half. So come down like 75% basically, and just move the scale up and down until at the end of a 300 mAh battery, the OSD says that you've taken 300 mAh out of the cell. That is the amperage scaling. The voltage scaling, this you can set with a multimeter. Plug your battery in, look at how many volts the Betaflight thinks the battery has in it, and then hook your multimeter up to the battery pads and see. In theory, your multimeter is going to be a little bit more accurate. This scale almost never has to change, though. You almost never have to change the voltage scale, so that's pretty rare. But there you go. Secret number 4. Spend a second in the power and battery tab. Failsafe tab. Secret number 5. Failsafe tab. It's just basically right here. Stage 2 settings. 1.5 is the amount of time that it'll sit in stage 1 failsafe after signal loss. Stage 1 failsafe is basically hold the last command. And so you're flying around, you've got like a little bit of left yaw, a little bit of left roll, you're just kind of cruising, and you go behind a building into failsafe. It is going to keep doing the last thing that it was doing. So you go into failsafe, it's going to maintain that same rotating left thing that you were doing. Hopefully, within 1.5 seconds, which is pretty short, it gets another command. If not, it's going to go into stage 2 failsafe, and it's going to drop. Never set this to land. Maybe set this to GPS rescue if you have GPS, but never set this to land. That is a terrible idea. This is a tiny whoop. For a tiny whoop, a 1.5 second failsafe is a little bit too safe. So what I like to do is move this to 3. And so this is now 3 seconds. So if I fly this thing out the front of the house and it goes into failsafe, for 3 seconds, it's going to hold the last command. And hopefully, within 3 seconds, it'll get somewhere to where it gets a little bit more signal and I can regain control and fly it back. The bigger the bigger the craft, the lower you want this. I think that 1.5 seconds is good across the board. Like 1.5 seconds is enough time for like hopefully you to get another command or for the quad to get away from whatever is blocking the signal. But 1.5 seconds is not so long that something really bad can happen, right? Like what you want to keep in mind here is that When it's in failsafe, it is like worst case scenario. It is frozen, the PID loop is active, so if it gets tangled in somebody's hair, it is going to go full throttle to try to figure out what the hell's going on. Like, when you're in failsafe, it is peak bad time. And so you don't want to make that more than the default on anything that's going to hurt anyone. A freaking tiny whoop is not going to hurt anybody. 3 seconds is not that much time, right? Like, in theory, it has gone into failsafe when you've been flying it, and you should not be flying directly at someone's face, like, ever, right? And so, in theory, you should be able to max this out at, like, 10 seconds, and nothing bad should happen, because you should never be flying directly at something that's, you know, fragile. But 3 seconds, realistically, is the max that I'm ever willing to go here, and I'm only really willing to do that on small stuff. But on small stuff, this could save you. If you're flying this tiny whoop somewhere that's unrecoverable, and you go behind a little shed, 3 seconds should be enough time for you to get out from behind that shed, and for you to, for it to regain a signal, and pop itself out of failsafe. So there you go. On small, safe builds, change your period of time in stage 1 failsafe after signal loss from 1.5 to 3, and then you do need to save and reboot for it to like lock it into the board itself. Secret number 5. Don't use the presets. Just kidding. Don't use PID and filter tuning presets. In most cases, not in all cases. I used a PID and filter preset yesterday on the 7-inch rig, just to kind of experiment. But for the most part, don't use the presets for anything other than your radio link. In the little search field, you can search for 250, and the first search result should be Express ELRS 250. You can search for 500, and the first search result should be Express ELRS 500. These are the presets to use. I run 250 hertz, so I'm going to search for 250. I'm going to click on this Express ELRS 250 hertz preset. I'm going to come down here into the options, and this is where you can very, very easily add stick smoothing in the RC command. And what I like is cinematic. You probably won't like that. This adds a noticeable amount of latency, but with that latency comes smoothness and softness, and I like the way that that flies. I'm also used to the way that that flies. If you're racing, use probably racing or freestyle. If you're freestyle, use freestyle or HD freestyle. If you want beautiful, smooth footage with no sharp edges, you can use cinematic. Ultra cinematic is a bit much. The regular cinematic option here is really, really good. I don't use any of the rest of these. If you use this ELRS RX connection method, choose one. This messes with your ports tab. If you're doing these top to bottom, you've already dialed in your ports tab, so don't use this guy. This can also screw with what it says in the receiver tab. We're going to set all that manually. So, in my opinion, don't use this. Voltage reading, single cell versus whole cell, whole pack. We're going to take care of that in the OSD menu, so you don't need to do this either. And then this down here, actual center equals 2. This is going to change your rates. We're going to set our rates individually. So I don't turn on any of these, but in fine tuning, if you use one of these, it's going to dial in some really nice RC command based smoothing, which is really cool because that is how you do stick smoothing with the least possible latency. You can do stick smoothing in the PIDs, but this is a little bit lower latency. So do it here. And then you're just going to hit pick, and then you have to hit save and reboot. And that's going to apply the right amount of stick smoothing for a 250 hertz ELRS connection. If you're going to run 500 hertz, you want to set that to 500 hertz. Other than that, don't use presets. It's so easy to do a fully perfect custom tune that's correct for you, that's correct for your exact build, that, yeah, don't use presets for anything other than the RC link. PID tuning tab. Secret number 6. PID tune. That's literally the secret. PID tune, friends. Right down the middle is going to fly shockingly decent. But grabbing this master multiplier and just dragging it to the right is going to make damn near everything fly better. And it's so easy. You leave it alone like this. You fly it. You make sure it's not doing anything weird. You make sure the motors aren't getting hot. You come back into Betaflight. You take this master multiplier slider. You move it from 1.0 to 1.2. You save it. You fly it again. You make sure it's not flying worse. You make sure the motors aren't getting too hot. You make sure nothing weird is happening. You come back into Betaflight. You go from 1.2 up to 1.4. You save it. You fly it again. You make sure it's not flying worse. You make sure the motors aren't getting hot. You come back in here. You go from 1.4, you go to 1.6. Keep going. Eventually, it'll start to make weird noises. It'll start to fly worse than it was before. You then, if that happened when you went to 1.6, guess what? You come back in here, you go to 1.4. Now you've got a rig that is custom tuned better than any preset will ever be. That's it. That's your secret. Don't be afraid of tuning. If you want to go a little bit deeper into tuning, book me for a half an hour or an hour-long session on my Fiverr, which is linked on CiottiFPV.com, or you can just search CiottiFPV on Fiverr, and we can get into the rest of these sliders. I don't use the master multiplier. I've been PID tuning for about 10 years. And so for me, what I do out of the box is something like this. You should not do this unless you know what's going on, because I've just changed a whole bunch of stuff. We can certainly dive into that in a session, but on an open live stream like this, it's hard to... I'll spend the next hour talking about everything that I just did. But this is my personal starting point for most quads. Certainly not on a 7-inch rig. This will absolutely not work on a 7-inch rig. I term relax. The cutoff of 15 is more for racers. 10 is better for freestyle. 5 is going to be better for like super cinematic or like weird builds. Anti-gravity is good pretty much right out of the box. Dynamic damping, I like to move to 30 and 30. That's just me personally. It doesn't make much of a difference. Dynamic idle, some AIOs will not work with dynamic idle. At this point with Tiny Whoops, I've just been leaving it zeroed out. But once I get this thing up in the air, maybe I'll screw around with dynamic idle. I don't want to mess around with it quite yet. Motor output. What motors are these? These are 14,000 kV or are they 18,000 kV? These are 19,000 kV, and I'm running this on 2S. So motor output limit needs to come down. We're going to do 80% to get us started. I might end up going down to 75, but 80 is a good starting point for a 1.6-inch rig on 18 or 19 or 20,000 kV motors. At least 80% motor output limit. I like a lot of power, so I start out there. For you guys, you might start it at 70 to make sure you might like it at 70. You'll probably like it at 70. Vbat sag compensation. Just turn this on. It doesn't give you full power at the beginning of the battery. It does give you full power at the end of the battery, so that through the course of the battery, it's going to be more level. You'll have roughly the same amount of power at the beginning of the battery as you do at the end. It's just an awesome thing to kind of turn on. at the beginning of the battery, it will just back it off a little bit. Also gives you a little bit more battery life that way. Thrust linearization, turn this on as well, but not at 20%. 20% is a little too aggressive for me. I like it at 10%. This boosts the PIDs at really low throttle when the motors make the least power. Sensorless outboard brushless motors, which is what we've got here, make less power at low RPM than they do at high RPM. Thrust linearization boosts the amount of power that the PID loop asks for at the lowest RPMs. So it gives you a more flat PID response through the throttle range. A lot of people like thrust linear at 20%. I find it to be a little obnoxious at 0 throttle. So 10% is a good middle ground. I know I just threw like 14 secrets at you in there, but you can handle it. Make sure you hit save a lot in the PID tuning tab. It's easy to make some changes and then not save them. Jesus, I can't type today. Super secret number 6 or 7. I think we're at 7. We'll just keep going. I'll just keep giving you more secrets. I'll give you more than you paid for by clicking on this live stream. And if you find any of these things to be valuable, head on over to CiottiFPV.com and support me so that I can keep doing this full time. With the economy tanking, it gets harder and harder to do this full time. So I do need the support, to be totally honest. FPV is also shrinking, and so, yeah, things are shrinking. So if you have a couple extra dollars a month, throw it my way over on my Patreon. That's the absolute best way that you can support me. It's 10 cents a day, people. You can't tell me that you don't get more than 10 cents of value out of this live stream. So hook a brother up, join my Patreon. If you're on my Patreon, maybe think about bumping up from $3 to $4. It makes a difference when a lot of you guys do this. So yeah, if you have an extra couple bucks, you can bump on Patreon just your dollar figure. So like if you want to be on the Tiny Whoop and Toothpick tier so that you could get entered into those giveaways every month, but you've got $6 a month that you'd like to send my way, you can just change your dollar figure from 5 to 6 or 5 to 10, but you can stay on that tier, right? Join the tier that you want to be on, and then you can dial in the dollar figure. A lot of people, there's a Patreon secret for you. There's secrets for everything. The rates tab secret though is to use Expo. Use Expo. If you are zeroed out on your Expo, you are doing it wrong. At least do that. At the very least, do this. 0.1 Expo. You're gonna love it. You're going to love Betaflight's nuts. Here's what Expo does. You fly the majority of your battery in here. Every once in a while, you go to full stick deflection. Every once in a while, you're moving around in the very center of the stick travel. But most of the time that you spend flying is in the middle of the stick travel here. And Expo softens that up. I run that much Expo. This is admittedly a lot, but I spend all of my time flying in this range, and it's nice and soft, and I have amazing control by doing this. I swear to God, if you're zeroed out on Expo and you don't at least go to 0.1, I'm going to smack you. Use Expo. Don't fly with this. If you fly with this Expo zeroed out, the way that you're actually flying is in here. Because in here is where the majority of the rotation is. If you're flying like this at 700 degrees a second and you're flying up here, it's going to be unfucking watchable because there's going to be so much rotation that the whole world looks mad. So at the very least, run 0.1 Expo. It will make a difference. But what you really should do is go, if you're zeroed, if you're used to running 0 Expo, go to 0.2, fly it around, and then go to 0.4, fly it around, and then go to 0.6. You will probably like maybe like 0.3. 0.1 is not a lot. 0.2, you start to really notice it. 0.3, 0.4, most people are going to really, really, really like. If you're super cinematic, you might want to keep going with it. But yeah, 0.3, 0.4 is pretty magical. So use Expo for Christ's sakes. Also use Throttle Expo, but I can't really dive into that much. I've got 2 full live streams talking about Throttle Expo. Search my channel for Throttle Expo and you'll find them. That is a 45-minute to an hour conversation. If you're not willing to put that time in to understand Throttle Expo, don't use Throttle Expo. If you don't understand it fully, you're going to make the situation worse. You have to fully understand it, and you have to dial it up and down a little bit. Watch those live streams. Throttle Expo is magic. It's well worth the time and effort. Save frequently. My default filtering setup on most rigs, other than 7-inch, is to max this gyro filter slider out, move it all the way up to 2.0, and then I take the D-term slider and I move it up to 1.2. That's just my personal starting point. I will try to get this D-term slider up to 1.4, but initially I want it down a little bit at 1.2. On a plastic frame build, you can take this gyro RPM harmonics down to 1 almost all the time. The dynamic notch filter is usually set up pretty good, but see this max frequency? On tiny whoops with really high KV potential, really high RPM potential, you can move this max frequency up to like 800. And then click to save it, just to make sure that you don't turn so high of an RPM that the dynamic notch filter can't get there. There you go. There's some PID tuning tabs tips. Receiver tab, I don't... Sunday setup secret number 7 or 8. Use RC deadband. All transmitters have a little bit of jitter in them. Deadband is what takes care of that. I run 4. That's it. It's as easy as that. Right now, the transmitter is not connected, but if the transmitter was connected, you would see this go in like 1500, 1501, 1500, 1500, 1500, 1501, 1499, 1500, 1500, 1501. That's jitter. You don't want that jitter getting into the PID loop, so set the yaw deadband so when these sticks are centered, if it's doing that, if it's jittering around, until it jitters over 0004, it won't do anything. Just set your deadband to 3 or 4, and it'll make the situation a little bit better. Your stick low threshold and your stick high threshold, well, I kind of have to show you how to set these, so I am going to turn the transmitter on, so you are going to get to see the jitter. These Hall sensor gimbals in my transmitter here are not brand new. They're not hammered ass. You can see them up here jittering between, what's that, roll? I had my trim set a little bit off. There you go. So now my trim is correct. It's 1500, but you can see every once in a while it'll go 1499. It'll also go 1502. Why are these trims off? That's weird. It doesn't matter. It's within the jitter. To set these stick low and stick high thresholds, you're going to go both sticks down and left, and you're going to look at those numbers. Are those numbers below 1,000? Yes. Then you're going to set your stick low threshold to 1,000. That's going to give you a little bit more travel. Then you're going to go up and right, forward and right on both sticks. Are they all above 2,000? Yes. So I'm going to set my stick high thresholds to 2,000. They should be roughly there. If I did this and all of the values were above 2010, I could set that stick high threshold to 2010. If all these values are above 2020, I could set that stick high threshold to 2020. If I move these down and these are all below 990, I could set my stick low threshold to 990. Make sense? That's how that works. That's how you get the maximum amount of resolution on your stick travel. It does make a difference. Hit save. Modes tab. There's really not any secrets in here. You're going to have a specific way that you set up your modes. I guess if you want a secret, the secret would be to turn your transmitter on. And then what you can do is, once it's connected, cool. Once it's connected, if you didn't have this arm in here, you hit add range and then you flip the switch. And it'll automatically assign it to whatever that aux channel is. And so this is where I want to be disarmed. So this is outside of the range. And then this is what I want to be armed. So this is now inside the range. Cool. So I want to set my angle mode. I'm going to click add range. I'm going to flip the switch. I'm going to set the switch to where I want angle mode to be. This little notch here shows you where the switch is. And then I cover that range with this. I could just do this. There's no reason to not make it really tight here. I don't know why I don't. I always just do it like that. I only have 3 position switches. So they're only ever going to be at 1,000, 1,500, and 2,000. So it doesn't matter. I'm actually not going to use angle mode. I'm going to use horizon mode. Because if I do a full flip or roll in horizon mode, it'll actually do it. If I try to do a full flip or a roll when I'm in angle mode and I don't know I'm in angle mode, it like shocks me so bad that I almost crash. So yeah, I like to use horizon mode. Beeper is on... Should be on aux 3, right? Yeah, there we go. Aux 3. Always put your beeper in the farthest down switch position. Don't put your beeper in the middle switch position. It has a weird... The beeper has a weird effect on turtle mode. And so always put your beeper at the 2,000 switch position. Always put it... Or the 1,000 switch position. Never have your beeper in the middle. You want your flip over after crash to be in the middle. This also makes it quicker to flip over into turtle mode and get out of it. You typically go between no beeper, no turtle mode, to turtle mode, and then to beeper. You never really need to go from beeper to turtle mode. So that's another reason. It makes things a little bit quicker. But yeah, flip over after crash should be in the middle, and then beeper should be on the outsides. Doesn't matter if it's top or the bottom. Air mode we have on the momentary switch. And then here's a legitimate secret, launch control. Launch control is very fun. Put it in a switch position that you don't use all that often and just use it for funsies. Basically, you need to put the switch position into where launch control is. You need to arm the quad, and then you're going to use the right stick to just set an angle, and then it'll hold that angle. Play around with it, you'll see. But you need to put the switch position in where launch mode is, and then arm the quad, and that's how you turn it on. It'll give you a little thing in your OSD. It's fun. Launch controls is cool. You'll like it. The only other thing is black box. It looks like up on the top here, it says that there's 16 megabytes free of flash. That means that this AIO does have black box, which is pretty awesome. So we're going to flip black box onto aux 2, and I'm going to put it in the switch position that I don't use very often, which is the switch all the way towards me. Save it. There's some mode secrets. Adjustment secret. Enable this. Put it onto whatever 3-position switch that you want to change your OSD setup. Open the range all the way up. Then apply OSD profile selection via channel aux 2. Aux 2 is just the channel, the switch that I want this to be on. This is going to allow you to have 3 different OSD profiles. Save it. And then in your OSD, you've got 3 different OSD profiles. So on the single switch position, on the first switch position, I can have my adjustment range. On the other 2 switch positions, I can have no adjustment range. On the second switch position, I can have my altitude, but not have it on the first and third. Or I can have my altitude on all 3 switch positions, or I can have it on 2 out of 3. You can have 3 separate OSD profiles. That's how you do it. Betaflight does that sometimes in the OSD tab. It's kind of annoying. A real secret is to have your OSD set up in a Word document. I've got it right in here. I've got digital Walksnail OSD set up, and then I've got an analog OSD set up. So I can just grab this chunk of text. Oh, wait, no. What am I doing? I want the digital one. Have I already done this? Nope, I have not. Okay. So here's my digital OSD setup. It's actually not quite right. I need to fix a couple little things in here, but I can copy this chunk of text. I can go into the CLI. I can paste this chunk of text, and that dumps my entire OSD in there. I don't have to adjust anything. It's the same on every quad. Super straightforward. And now I've got my digital OSD set up. The only problem with doing that is it won't turn elements off. It will only turn elements on. So sometimes you have to come back in here and turn a couple weird things off that were on by default. For some reason, it didn't turn the warning. God damn it. Sometimes if I just click out and in, there we go. Like the disarmed value. The disarmed value stays on, even though I don't want it to be on. So let's turn that off. The warning is in a weird spot. This is acting weird. I gotta fix this. But that's looking kind of okay. Save it. Another secret in here are these post-flight stats. These are really fun to dial in. There's some really cool ones like G-force maximum. On that really hard crash, you can see how many G's it pulled. It's kind of interesting. I usually have this set up with timer 1, link quality minimum, G-force maximum, ESC temperature and RPM maximum, battery voltage minimum, current battery voltage, MAH used, and battery current draw maximum. Those are really valuable post-flight stats to run in there. Alarms. Oh, you know what? I was wrong. The MAH capacity starts flashing from this field here. So in the alarms area here, if you're running 300 mAh batteries, set your capacity to 300, and then this little here, MAH used, it'll start flashing when it goes over 300, just to make it a little bit more obvious you're getting towards the end of your battery. Sorry, it doesn't pull that from the battery tab, the power and battery tab. My apologies. There we go. That's looking good. Video transmitter tab is not being used because this is an HD build. Motors tab. You guys know what you're doing in here. I don't know if there's any real secrets. We already got to the 7 secrets, so we're all set. I guess the secret from this tab would be to always use bidirectional D-shot because it's magic and it works awesome. Also check your motor poles. Tiny little motors will have 12 motor poles. Bigger motors will have 14. Just count the number of magnets on the motor bell if you're curious, if you don't know where that number needs to be. Let's get these motors spinning in the right direction. And this thing will be good to fly. Unless the Walksnail VTx exploded while it was sitting here. Hopefully not, obviously. Well, no. On a fresh build, always do reorder motors first to make sure that they're in the right positions. So I definitely have the propellers off. That is right rear. This is right front, left rear, left front. This is normally correct unless you've oriented the AIO or the ESC in a weird way, sideways or front to back or something like that. But just check it first. Motor direction. Here we go. Wizard. Start and spin. So this is where you get them spinning in the correct direction. Motor 1 is correct. Motor 2 is incorrect. Motor 3 is incorrect. Motor 4 is correct. So 2 and 3, we're going to reverse. Always make sure that after you've clicked those, they've actually reversed direction, because sometimes this doesn't work. And then close it, and that saves it. And then for a last step, hit this, pull the master slider up a little bit, and make absolutely sure everybody's spinning the right direction. There we go. A little secret in here. When these motors are spinning, spacebar, I think. Yep, spacebar kills them. Spacebar disconnect. So if you're playing around with this and you panic for some reason, just hit the spacebar on the keyboard and it'll zero everything out. That's it. That's your secrets, friends. No, black box. Hold on, let me get the battery unplugged. And we're going to dive into black box real quick here. If you have black box, which most tiny whoops do not, unfortunately. But if you do, you want, especially on tiny whoops, you want to be at, this is different in 4.5. You don't want the highest option. You want one down from that is the easiest way to think about it. And then you want gyro scaled. These are the two options that you want here. Save and reboot. On Betaflight 4.5, I think it's like, I think it does those in kilohertz. But yeah, the higher the option, the more data is being logged. The highest option is almost a little bit too much data. So you almost always want to go down by one option. You can go down by two options, but then you could be leaving some data on the table. Usually it's just down by one is the easiest way to think about this. Sometimes you'll have to go all the way up. But yeah, usually down by one option, gyro scaled, save and reboot. That's it. And then look, see how much free space there is. CLI. The main thing in here is PIDSUM. You're going to type get space PIDSUM. It's going to give you two different PIDSUM limits. This is the amount of power that the PID loop is allowed to use. The range is 100 to 1,000. So take a 0 off. 10 to 100. 10% to 100%. So take a 0 off here. 50% is the maximum amount of power that the PID loop is allowed to access. That's not very much. Let's max it out. This is more of like a safety thing. God forbid you get it stuck in somebody's hair. The PID loop can only ask for 50% of the power. Don't get it stuck in people's hair, and you can have a better performing quad. You're going to type set, S-E-T, space, and then I just copied and pasted PIDSUM limit equals 500. I'm going to remove the 500. I'm going to make it 1,000. That is going to give the PIDSUM limit on roll and pitch full power. Now I'm going to copy and paste PIDSUM limit yaw and do the same thing. The yaw is limited to 40%. Set, space, paste, PIDSUM limit yaw equals 400. Change 400 to 1,000. Usually the PIDSUM won't ask for 100% power, but if it does ask for it, you're giving it the ability to get it. And there you go. Those are like more than 7 secrets in Betaflight. Oh my god, it's exactly 5 o'clock. I know I missed a lot of chats, but I really wanted to charge through this stuff. And this thing should now be flyable. It's flyable on Walksnail, though. So I can't get it into the live stream without doing a whole bunch of stuff. But what we can do is put a battery on it and just hover it. That's a full setup. I think I did set up like one or two things. Apparently I bound this, which is I do not remember doing. But that was a full setup. The majority of that was from scratch. And there we go. Oh god, this battery just absolutely shit its pants. Come on. Yeah. Apparently this battery was not charged. I thought it was. Hold on. In the interest of... Oh, man, I was going to fly on this stream, but I forgot to put batteries in the charger. That's okay. I got to get out of here like right at 5 o'clock on Sundays because I teach that dance class. Hold on. I just want to get this battery plugged in because I think I just over-discharged the shit out of it. Yeah, 3.0. Oh my god. Stop it. Charge, charge, charge. Wait, no, I don't want to do a full charge. I want to do a storage charge. 3.8. Yep, there we go. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing with these. I don't know where these batteries are at. Well, that one's fully charged. What the hell? That's fine. I can recharge them tomorrow. Figures. There were 3 batteries sitting there. 2 of them were fully charged. 1 of them was not. Donnie FPV with a $2 super chat. Thank you, brother. Much appreciated. Yeah, cool. I'll get this thing up in the air, and this is going to be for sale. I joke about the Walksnail light exploding. I had the gangly fan wailing away on 3S the entire time, so it'll be fine. Yeah, that's what I got. Let me really quickly just rip through at least some of the chat comments where you guys tagged me. Teleport FPV with a $9.99 super chat. Thank you again. I think I got that before, but just to be totally sure. CiottiFPV.com is where you guys support me. Your support is the only way that I can do this full time. It is getting harder and harder and harder. So if you're not supporting me, I need your help, yo. Click thumbs up at the very least. Subscribe to the channel. Send your friends a link to this video if you got something out of it and you want your friends to know more so that they stop bugging you for all the good tips. Yeah, help me keep doing this. I want to keep doing this, but it is unfortunately shrinking. The Patreon has been on a downward trend all year. Let's at least maybe hopefully level that out. So yeah, the only way to do that is to join, is for as many of you as possible to join my Patreon. It makes a huge difference. You don't have to join at a high tier as long as there's a lot of you that are on there. So tell your friends, you know, let's keep this thing going. Bandit Drone says he said the thing. Strugger says my race spec broke on the second battery. I don't know if you remember telling you about it, but it sent email to WeBleed, which sent me to Newbie Drone. I sent an email to Newbie Drone 2 weeks ago, no follow-up. Don't just ever send one email and expect them to always catch every email. Bug these people. It's all good. They get hundreds of, if not thousands of emails a day. So yeah, bug them. Whoop Fox says, after the other day with the crash recovery stream, I run that shit on everything now. It's good, right? It's good. Howdy Newbie says, run it till it's dead. Get the new Ciotti 75mm build I'm working on for indoor going. Shrigger says, do I keep waiting? Nope, bug them. Brendan's McBean says, pretty soon you need to retire configure to 10.10 because the new version is web app. That's what's needed for the December release that's scheduled. That's not the end of the world, because this, I don't know why I keep using this desktop version of Betaflight. I'm just used to it. Using the Betaflight web, I've done the web UI before. What's really funny is way back when Betaflight was web UI only, and then it went to a standalone. And now I'm used to the standalone, and now we got to go back to a web UI. But I have used the web UI, and it works awesome. So, yeah. Thank you for that reminder, Brandon. UCanFPV says, I could have used this last night. I swapped my crap 2G4 with a new one, made a CLI dump, and then I messed with the tune watching a year-old stream from you. It flies better now. Awesome. Tuning was the same a year ago, so talked about that. Cole FPV says, on my transmitter, that switch was momentary. It rebounds to the default state. I recently broke it, though. Replaced it with a push button in a 3D printed housing. That's pretty cool. NeoFlows says, genius strat. I forget what we were talking about. You can FPV, when he said that, you can FPV says, I thought you were supposed to disarm for a perch anyway. Yes, but you don't, like, you can do a perch where it's, like, super gentle without air mode. With air mode on, you're going to hit and it's going to bounce a little bit and then you're going to disarm. With air mode off, you can just, like, and it looks like super, super on purpose. Cole FPV says, I land when it falls out of the air. Striker with another couple comments here. Issues 65, abuse the throttle, 2 minutes and 10. 75 on 27 kV, I was getting 2 minutes and 40. Yeah, I think just talking about like how low you run your batteries. That's on you guys. You get to pick that. Benny Bravo says, just built a 75 with Matrix 4-in-1 TBS Pro 32 Nano. Separated all the cables, 5-volt battery lead away from the cam. Still crazy amounts of noise. What can I do next? Not a whole hell of a lot. You're using a good quality VTX. The problem is the AIO at that point. So yeah, you got to switch to a different AIO. The lighter weight the AIO, the Matrix 4-in-1 is a pretty lightweight AIO, I would guess. You know, they're going to sacrifice capacitance. You can try to put a capacitor on there, but with a tiny whoop, that's a pain in the ass and it ends up breaking off. So, yeah. You can try to, like, twisted pairs the cables. If the cables are just laying like this, try to twist them up. That might help. Yeah, there's not a whole hell of a lot you can do. Super annoying. Cole FPV says, once I sent Tiny Whoop into a teenager's face, I disarmed before content, and he told me to, so that's what makes it okay. Yes. Oh, because he told you to. Yeah, totally. Sporty says, have a build. Normal rates feel too sensitive, but feed forward is at 0. Any idea? Rates and feed forward have very little to do with one another. If the rates feel too sensitive, lower the rates. Lower the center stick sensitivity and add Expo. Expo is going to be the main thing, though. Add Expo. Feed forward is how quickly the quad responds to what you're doing, not how sensitive or not sensitive it is. You can think of feed forward as delay. The higher the feed forward, the less the delay. But it has nothing to do with how sensitive the quad reacts to where you move the sticks. Talking about Expo, talking about there's too many. Come on back to tomorrow night's live stream with these admittedly good questions, I'm sure, and we'll work through them. But I got to run. Uriel gets the last comment of the live stream. He says, secrets say, let the spirits of yesterday help me with the treasures of today. It works. Classic Uriel chat comment. Thanks for hanging, friends. I hope you learned something today. If you did learn something, think about supporting me. Change your bookmarks to these websites, to my affiliate links over on CiottiFPV.com. Buy something for my Etsy store. Book some one-on-one time with me through Fiverr. Join my Patreon. Loads of different ways that you can support me. Leave a comment on these videos. Tell your friends. Post a good chunk of the video or like a clip from the video on your local Facebook group. Do something, and let's keep this thing going. Aren't you getting annoyed having to be the smart guy telling all the people that you fly with what the secrets are? Get their asses on here, and then, you know, you guys can have more educated conversations rather than your conversations just being you regurgitating all the things that you've learned to them. Love you, bye. Here's some more flying from the new spot where the RC Drift Car guys hang out. See you tomorrow night at 10 Eastern Time.
Yeah. Out in the yard where the grass grows wild,
CiottiFPVs, goggles locked, grinning like a child. Teddy spaghettis, fur flies, and jet wash dreams. Yeah. Chasing small whoops like a dog possessed fiend. Eyes on a neon blur, hard in the chase. Bit fuzz and prop spin, all tangled in place. Yeah. Four-legged rebel with a rotor stir tail. In the circus of the sky, they never fail. CiottiFPV, Teddy spaghetti, dynamic duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, they zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shotties on sticks, Teddy's on paws. Side by side, legends breaking all the laws. Through the kitchen, over couch scale terrain. Backyard mayhem in their flight domain. No ground too sacred, no loop too tight. Fuzz, fuel, fury ignites the night. When pilot and pup lock eyes on the prize, every whoop they conquer is a fresh cut surprise. Yeah. Yo, Shotty behind the sticks, Teddy's leading the pack. Prop guard missiles unleashed, never looking back. No leash, no map, just freestyle mic. They on the dog drone streets every day and night. Said whoops, hitting low, gotta nail the dive. Teddy push throttle up, feel the beast come alive. I see the neon arc, got the sticks locked in. Teddy, yeah. Let's rip this loop, ride the roar of the wind. Teddy, yep. Yeah, CiottiFPV, Teddy spaghetti, coming at duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and